Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tooele Happy Hour, starring Jared Anderson and David Weiss, where if Head Trauma had a podcast, it would sound just like this. So let's do a proper introduction here for our guest. Okay. So everyone knows Holly. She's been here a million times,
She's
right?
wearing blue jeans tonight, folks, not a fancy dress.
But Tye, he walked in here kind of skeptical, like all nervous and stuff. So let's let him get his feet wet in the water and introduce himself to our audience. Tye, can you tell us about who you are, what you stand for, where you want to go with it all, and what you want to be when you grow up?
Well, I'm still trying to figure that out, what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm Tye Hoffman. I live in Erda. I don't know how much you want to know about me. I've got a wife and 5 kids. I grew up by Huntsville, if you know where that's at, Liberty. Most people don't know where Liberty is, so I have to say Huntsville. Went to Weber High. Came out here about 25 years ago and have been here ever since, and started the Edward Jones office out here about 21 years ago, and then I ran for county office a couple of years ago, county council, and was elected, and glad I did. It's been a good move out here. We've enjoyed raising our family out here and living out here, and it's been good. So
Good.
I don't know what else you want to know. What specifics would you like to know?
I know we've met before when you used to come out to the salt plant I worked at. And
did you work out there?
Out of Cargill.
Cargill, okay.
Yeah. And you'd come out and give us, like a little class. It's probably the last time, probably been about 5 years ago.
Oh, probably even a little bit longer than
maybe
that.
6. Or you come out and give us just kind of a little educational class on what our 401k is doing, how to apply it, and things like that, which
that's cool.
I thought those classes were very beneficial. I don't know why Cargill stopped having them, and then you laid the offer, if you guys want to come in and talk to us, talk to me and have a review personally, schedule something and you have us in.
Yeah.
Which I should have done back then, but I was a teenager and spending all my money on other, things I shouldn't have.
Well, I would like to mention that Tye is a financial advisor. I've had the honor of getting his advice. He's very smart. He understands, and he's humble too. So I'm sure that it's probably embarrassing, but he understands the markets. He can answer questions. He's been in business for a long time, as he mentioned, and the main reason that I was hoping that he would be on the show was because when the banks started to shut down, and I'm hearing all these different things of the potential collapse of our economy, and I didn't necessarily understand the effects. How does a bank collapse? What happens to the people that are actually dependent on their retirements, and everything drops, and how bad is it? And then you said 3. Are there 3 that have went down? And is there potentially? I've heard there could be more. And then is it bad policy on a bank's part? Like, do you mind if he explains?
I'd love it. Seriously, I'm all in. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well, I'll tell you what I know about it. I don't think I know tons, but I do know some about what has happened there. So when people invest money or deposit money into a bank, they take a chunk of it and they leave it for lending and stuff like that. They take a certain percentage, whatever it is, usually around, 10 to 30% roughly, and use that for lending out for loans and things like that. Then they take the other chunk and they take it and they invest it in things like what I do, like maybe it's municipal bonds, agency bonds, government bonds, things like that. Okay. And
there you go.
Is that better?
Yeah. Talk to the mic.
And so what has happened, and to some extent, it has been what the Fed has done with interest rates. Okay. The Fed has raised interest rates pretty dramatically over the last year. Okay. If you remember, a couple of years ago, they were talking about inflation being transitory. Okay. Well, they realized about a year late that it wasn't transitory. And so they started raising rates, and they started raising rates really fast. Well, what happens when you start raising rates, there's an inverse relationship between interest rates and bond values. Okay. So what the banks went out and bought is they went and bought bonds. Okay. Government bonds, corporate bonds, municipal bonds.
What is a bond? What is that?
A bond is a debt or a loan. So if you're buying a bond, you're lending somebody money. Okay. So let me give you an example, local one here with Tooele County. A couple of years ago, the school district voted for bonding for the schools, correct?
Right. Okay. Now,
You guys are familiar with that?
Very.
So they didn't have the money to do it, so they went out and borrowed money to do that. Okay. And whoever bought those bonds is lending them the money, and the school district is paying them interest on that money with our tax dollars.
over the course of like 20 years,
20, 30 years, whatever.
like a mortgage.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So there are CMOs, collateralized mortgage obligations. That's a type of investment that banks could go buy and stuff. And those are groups of mortgages, basically. Okay. So you have these bonds out there. And when the Fed starts raising rates, well, long-term bonds went down in value. And some of them went down in value significantly.
Is that because the rates on the return of that bond is a set number?
It is.
The interest rate surpass that?
Correct. So let's say you have a bond out there that's a 20-year bond that's paying 2%. Okay. And we'll use, so I'll give you, run some numbers by you, and we'll do math over the internet here, which might be hard to follow. But let's say you have $10,000, okay, and you buy a bond a couple of years ago that's paying 2%, okay. Well, the banks are buying them in millions and millions of dollars worth, but for people to understand, if $10,000, you're going to get $200 a year, correct? Mm-hmm. Well, interest rates went up and doubled pretty much in a very short period of time, which meant now these long-term bonds are paying 4 and 5%.
Is it a variable rate when you buy that bond, or is it set?
The interest rate is set.
Okay.
In most cases. Okay. Most of them are set. What changes though? So now let's say an investor is out there and they've got $10,000 and you want to sell your 2% bond, but they can go out into the market right now and get 4%, which is double the 2%, but you want to sell them your 2% bond.
You're stuck.
No one wants it.
Either that or they're going to want it for a lot less money.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So what we have seen, and I've got some examples here for you guys to look at. I can't hand them to you, or you can't keep them, but it's, what we've seen is bonds have gone down anywhere. Long-term government bonds and stuff, they're 1.5%, 2%. They've gone down 30, 40% in some cases.
Ooh.
Okay. So now they have to sell those bonds for 20 or 30 or 40% less.
Not just for less of the gain they would get of maturity, but for less of what they bought them for.
Correct. So if they bought them for $10,000, they may be able to sell them for $8,000. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
You're okay.
He gets into his work.
Yeah. So I do it all the time. But so they might actually be at just kind of a dead loss on those areas.
Well, who's buying them and getting, the benefit of this cheaper bond?
Oh, investors, mutual funds, and
Mutual funds.
pension plans, whatever. They're called the institutional investors. They're out on the street, and we can see them and stuff like that. I can see a list of the inventory of the bonds that are out there, and so I
they're
can sell
getting
them
a
to you.
deal.
I can sell them to the public.
And with the chance that interest rates might go up again, it's a
Risky.
gamble to buy them, but it's still, you're buying something that was bought for possibly, let's just say $10,000. You're buying it for $8,000. So the gamble is you might be buying a winner, or if the interest rates go up again, you might be hanging on to another, loss.
Correct, at least temporarily. But realize on paper, and the closer you get to the maturity date of those bonds are slowly going to go up in value. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, if it's a 20-year bond and it's down 20%, the closer we get, 10 years out from now, it might only be down 5% or whatever. So people are going to make that money up over time. They're buying these bonds that are down right now through appreciation, because they're going to get back what is called par, or the $10,000. Mm-hmm. Okay. at maturity. So at maturity, whoever owns the bond at that time gets the par value of the bond. It's called par, and that's when they're trading right at 100% or $1,000 per bond.
Well, why would someone sell it before it hits par?
Well, that was the thing. Okay, the
Desperation.
bonds had to. I mean, the banks had to sell it because they were getting so many withdrawals. Okay, there was one day, the day before the Fed stepped in and shut them down, there was $40 billion worth of withdrawals. They didn't have that much cash on hand, so they have to start
40
liquidating
billion people.
Yeah, in one day.
It was a
What
200.
was the run on
It
the
was a
bank?
200 billion drop.
Right. So they can't sell their assets fast enough, and the assets that they are selling are down in value.
And then they had to sell them in a rush, so they couldn't shop the market to sell them either. They probably had to take quick offers.
Correct.
What caused that to happen? The rush on the bonds on the
Wasn't
I
there
don't really know. That's a good question.
I heard that there was a financial writer, like a news writer, who said SVB was a dangerous investment right
there
now.
was somebody saying that about 2 or
And
3
so there
months
was
ago.
a run on it.
That could have been the case.
And
So,
yeah,
yeah,
some person caused the collapse of one of the biggest banks in the country.
hard to believe, isn't it?
It wasn't really that big of a bank. It was just 2 billion, I think,
so
or 200 billion, right?
But it was the biggest, one of the biggest tech banks, and
Yeah,
it was
Biggest growth banks, yeah.
But they were also investing a lot in this ESG and woke.
Yeah, that's all the banks.
Theology.
That's all of them. There's not one that's not.
that one may be more just because it's in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's San Francisco.
It was
the
par
Bay
for
Area.
the course out there.
Right.
well. That kind of shows you that those type of investments have consequences when you're not focused on managing the money properly or making the right purchases. You're more focused on, having woke ideology. It's a little
good
bit
point.
scary.
Yeah, and to me, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, it seems like a net loss when you invest in these woke ESG type ideas, and I'm not sure how they're getting away with it and still staying afloat. And the fact that this hasn't happened sooner, I mean, I don't know. But I will say this: I was always told when people are screaming doom and gloom, that's when you go in to buy your stocks. And then when people are just happy and fat and saying the market's great, that's when you sell them, correct? Is that a pretty good theory?
You guys know who Warren Buffett is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, he's got a saying that when people are fearful, be greedy. And when people are greedy, be fearful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And I actually have a piece here that kind of talks about what we call the market cycle of emotions. It's a good piece, but
Well, when
I can show you
SVB was
later.
selling off their bonds, probably a good time to buy because it sounds like they were selling them in a rush, selling them at a loss.
So yeah, those buyers are going to make plenty of money on those bonds eventually. They're going to make at least a 20% increase over time on their bonds, plus get whatever interest they're paying. It might be 1.5–2%, but then they're going to get the appreciation of the bond over time.
It's the par that counts. I mean, like if you're only a couple of years away from par,
Correct.
gold mine.
Correct.
This gets me thinking, and we probably can't go into it because there's still so much to go to, but this gets me thinking of the GameStop rush where people started just buying up GameStop to sink one of those mutual funds. Was it a mutual fund
It was
or
a hedge fund.
A hedge
They
fund.
were trying to GameStop, in my opinion, probably should have gone under.
Yeah, it should have.
But
And those people buying those, what do they call them, shorts, they weren't doing something to hurt GameStop. They were buying shorts because they saw GameStop was going away.
Well, it's
because
like playing the craps table.
Correct.
It's
Internet
just-
gaming was coming back, but there was some guys who wanted to screw bankers.
When I got to understand that, I play craps.
Uh-huh.
And I am the person when there's someone hot on those dice, that's when I'm betting 7. And I'm betting against the roller.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just gambling. Because when I win great.
And craps is the funnest game in Vegas. I mean, let's face it. Craps,
I
the
love
energy at a craps table is the funnest.
I win more at poker, but yes, craps is fun.
I don't know how craps is played. I just think it's the funnest. It's
You got the most odds
curing.
in Vegas too.
Yeah.
You got the most odds there. With Tye, my question is now, take us through where this is, I assume, a trickle effect, because I mean, my husband is in sales, and in 2020, interest rates were down. Everyone where you expect were going to start getting panicky with COVID and their jobs and all this. That was a great time to buy a house. It was like everyone wanted to buy a house. Everyone wanted to buy cars. For the salespeople in those industries, it was a great time to be in that industry. But over the last year, what we've seen is absolute. It's stopped. Now the interest rate goes up so quickly, it's almost people can't afford the payment. They can afford to get, they want to buy a new vehicle, for example, and they go in and they've got great credit. But at the end of the day, with that 6% or 5% on there, it literally prices them out of the payment. So
to some extent, yeah, that is happening. But yeah, go ahead.
But my question is, for someone who's got an IRA and they've got, a company that's constantly buying and selling for them in an investments, things like that. For people who are retired and they have their 401k, what is this? Could this potentially be? What could this mean? The economy right now. What do people who are right now not making ends meet or just barely making ends meet with the additional cost and inflation and all of that?
Okay. So are you talking more about those that are trying to buy into a home or those that are retired?
What I'm trying to see is when a bank collapses and the economy is doing what it's doing, where the Fed is raising the rate, they're trying to stabilize the economy. How does that affect people's, you work with investments all the time. What's happening right now with investments in the market?
Well, the investments have been going down for the last 14 months, basically, since December of 2021. That's when things were peaked, and then they've started dropping since then. And that's not necessarily an uncommon cycle. We see that. We've seen that before, and we're going to see it again, assuming we come out of this one. Okay. But part of what's happening is when businesses are run poorly or do foolish things, and there's a market slowdown, there's always businesses that go out of business. Okay?
Well, when you have a pandemic and businesses are caused to shut down,
right? But
like 2020.
But that was 3 years ago. I'm talking about just right now with SVB and Signature Bank and First Republic Bank and stuff like that. Those are the three banks that were have been basically shut down.
They've closed their doors.
Okay.
Kaput.
And they're forever? The government let them fail?
Two of the banks have been bought out.
Yes,
by other banks.
they sell off their properties to another bank. Yeah.
So Flagstaff Bank bought Signature Bank out of New York. I can't remember who bought SVB, and the other bank is just being liquidated by, I think, the AG's office out of California. But don't hold me to that. I could be wrong about that.
Why did the decision made to liquidate versus allow them to sell off and be absorbed? That's one thing I wondered. Do you think it's because that was a choice made by the bank that we have a better option if we liquidate of everyone walking away? Or
First Republic Bank, is that the one you're talking about that didn't
I think.
Well, right before, when they were struggling, there was a big infusion. Like they got like $30 billion of money lent to them from a bunch of other banks. So I'm guessing it's those other banks that are buying up their assets.
So it's kind of like just a difference in bankruptcy, how it's
like the debt collectors.
Yeah.
Some have to pay it back, some don't, or something to that nature.
SVB,
we won't know really how it all shaked out probably for a couple of years.
Yeah, SVB scares me. It's going down scares me because it was one of the larger tech investment banks that managed a lot of the tech stuff. And although I think with the coming change in our financial economy that we're going to go through for a while, I think we'll see tech shrivel a little bit anyway, but I think that might cause a further contraction of tech development and production.
It could.
But on one hand, I see tech is accelerating with AI and things like that. I just saw a report that they believe AI will replace 300 million jobs. Or not 300. Yeah, 300 million.
Everybody in the United States.
Right. And they're talking about over the course of the world. So they said, if you don't get behind technology and learning how to work with it, then you better get into a labor intensive career, something that's working with your hands or working, like we've talked about many times now. And with the tech industry accelerating there and with AI, but it's only certain big tech companies that are actually able to pull it off. So, I mean, what's going to happen to the technology? Are we going to be stagnant for a while? And only the big wigs are making advances?
It's a big question. Charles Murray wrote a book on it. I know we're not allowed to mention him, but he wrote a book talking about it in, gosh, I think the 80s, talking about tech advancements and what they need to do with that.
Everything balances out, though, in the end. I truly believe, like, if you invent the car when you were using the buggy, better things happen. So if somebody invents a technology that advances our well-being as a society, a few people go out of work, yeah, that's, sometimes you got to break an egg to make an omelet. It is the reality of it.
It's terrifying to me.
I feel bad for truck drivers because eventually all the trucks are going to drive themselves. And that's going to be a big market.
That's a scary thought to me. Automatic trucks driving themselves. That's just a scary thought to me. But I think when that happens...
I know. Who's going to pick up all the lot lizards when there's no drivers?
Okay, there we are. There we are.
Digress quickly. Don't
Putting them out of work.
We got 2 minutes before crypto came up. And you went a long time before you brought up stuff. I'm impressed, Aaron.
We're getting better, huh?
Look at me. I'm a professional.
So to bring the train back onto the rails, so please continue with retirements
and the market and stuff like that.
Well, wait, before you go retirements, the people that deposited money into those banks, I am curious to know, we're supposed to have them insured up to $250,000 per account, correct?
Correct.
So if I have 2 accounts in that bank, and I put $250,000 in each of those accounts, will I be insured for the full 5, or
No, it should just be the 250 per customer? Is
So
usually
it's
how it is.
per
But
customer.
they're saying they're gonna say that there's. I think Biden said that they're gonna make sure that everybody's
Make
made whole,
everyone whole.
which.
he said the border is secure.
What do you think
know.
the cost of that will be nationally? Do you picture that'll be a...
Probably between $1 and $200 billion.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So about what we paid Ukraine. Maybe we don't
I would guess. But
send money to Ukraine and we could maybe take care of the folks home.
And maybe it's less than that, but unless they're taking off the deposits off of that and stuff, which hopefully they are, or the sale of the assets off of that. I mean, not the deposits.
But there's a chance that there's people that have more money than just 250,000 in these banks or multiple accounts that won't be made whole potentially, especially if they're businesses.
You guys have heard of Roku, right? Or Roku? Mm-hmm. Well, I think they had 400 billion there or something like that, or 400 million. So
Yeah, I heard that. So if they're going to make them whole and it is going to, come back on us, is that... I hope the politicians sit down, take a look at it, and say, okay, this 250 million was something that was written in what? Gosh, the FDIC Act came out in the 30s, or
yeah, but the dollar amount was bumped up to 250,000 in 2008 and 2009.
But initially, wasn't it
100,000 out? Yeah,
100,000,
right?
When a dollar was, would buy you a house with 70 acres. So maybe it's time we up the FDIC insurance and the commensurate insurance costs of that.
They could, yeah. The banks would just have to pay more for the insurance.
Because now that money's a little different valued, I mean, it seems like we're behind. You hear them griping about not raising the minimum wage. Well, how about we raise what the FDIC insurance is?
And if that happens, I mean, if a few more banks go under, maybe they'll look at that. But that may be an act of Congress, literally, to get that done. I don't know how they up that or who does that or how that works. But
this may be a stupid question, but I'm just going to shoot. Does Congress control the Fed, or does Fed control Congress?
I don't. Neither really. The Fed is kind of its own separate thing.
I think Congress go in there and showboat. The president mumbles to himself, and the Fed does what it does.
I think people don't understand the Fed because the Fed is by itself and it is
private
bureaucrats, correct? There's not one elected official that has to be accountable to the people at the Fed. Is that right? Aren't
I don't
they?
think there's anybody elected there.
The Fed
See,
is
that
a private. The Fed is also private. It's not a government entity.
So why is
But
America so?
Chairman is appointed by the president. Correct?
Yes. Or the chairman, the president is told who to appoint as chairman probably.
Right. There's
Let's be
probably the
honest.
Could be.
the biggest, richest, wealthiest elites in this world probably decide. I mean, this has a lot of power. There's a lot of power. The Fed is trying to save the American economy by raising interest rates and all this stuff, and yet an economy in a capitalist system will work itself out, as Dave mentioned, that things will even themselves out, but
In a
You had-
capitalist system.
in a real capitalist system.
Yeah,
Not a crony
the funny
capitalist
thing was
system.
is the Fed, when it was first designed in 1913, it was said to stop the boom and bust cycle of the capitalist market, which every 10 years prior to that there was a boom and bust cycle. Hasn't stopped it.
No.
It's adjusted it so that it makes the boom and bust bigger. Every fourth boom and bust cycle is bigger, except these last two.
Like 08.
08 was huge. Now is huge. Part of the boom and bust cycle. Before that, I mean, the crash of 19 was solved in 6 months. And it was a bigger loss than the crash of 29. But it was solved in 6 months, corrected itself. 29, of course, we get FDR because, hero gets in there, communist. And it lasts 13 years, the recovery.
Tye, I'm curious. When you say that every so often that you see the markets go up and down and all of that, does I know when I came to see you, I think it was 2020, and I said, depending on the election, do you see markets fluctuate around presidential election?
A little bit, yeah. But generally, the long-term driver of the stock market and the economy is corporate profits. But politics does have a role in it
Yeah.
to some extent. But the main driver is corporate profits and how profitable businesses are.
So talk about your business. I mean, Edward Jones, right? And you are the financial advisor there. Do you have a staff there that works with you?
I've got two ladies that work for me. Carrie is my full-time assistant, and then another one that works Mondays and Fridays. Her name's Thana. And then I've got another financial advisor in the office as well there with me as well.
Do you often go to businesses like Jared said at Cargill, where you offer financial advice, or schools, for example, because that would be nice?
I used to a lot more in the past than I do now. Right now, as my business is a little bit more mature and I don't have as much time for that. But yeah, I still try to get to them and stuff as much as I can to help people out. And
Why do they stop? You mentioned out there when we were talking that you get one semester of financial education in high school.
well, I think that's what everybody gets. I
Right.
think
So-
we all get.
Why isn't that why aren't we learning in, I don't know, second grade about money and about saving
the
and about, I know
people
that's
who-
something parents should be
The
teaching.
people who
but-
run the
education
Fed
system.
would have competition. They don't want that. So the Fed tells the Department of Education, just enough. Don't.
I think
Teach them about art and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
so much of our young people absolutely would benefit. Every young person would benefit. I mean, my children, there's three things when they get money for their birthday or whatever, except for if someone gives them a Roblox card or something. They know I just say right off the top, you were going to put 50% of that in your piggy bank or in our bank account. And then they take 10%. In our house, we use it to give either for Christmas, or they'll give it to a donation of one of their friends'. They like to give fundraiser donations, and they like to give their own money. And then the rest they get to spend. But I tried the trick with my both kids where I said, look, I'll give you $5 for this week. Or if you don't take the $5 and you wait for 3 weeks, then I'll give you $15. just to test them. That's one of the best tests you can do to a kid to see if they are willing to wait it out and write it out. And both of them failed miserably the first time.
The deferral of gratification.
Yes. And then the second time, my son said, no, I'll wait. And boy, was his sister angry when he waited. Because in that 3 weeks, they're not guaranteed money unless they've actually earned a commission based on the chores at home. And they do it without argument.
Just you using words like commission with your kids, you're already outpacing every other parent.
It sounds like you got your own little micro economy going on right inside of your house.
That's what your family is.
Do you print your own money and like put your face on it and say, this is worth your rent for the month? And
The Holly Dollar.
Yeah. Holly Dollar. Well, honestly, their dad was a salesman. So commission is something that, it was common, and I was in sales. And so I think that I'm not going to pay them because they're my kids and they live in the house. They have a job, and their number one job is good grades at school. And if they're not doing well at school, they get no commission. We focus our time on making sure they're doing their job first. But I think every family should be, because it's not taught in schools, every family should be teaching their children about money.
We need to have you start teaching parents. Seriously.
Oh, no.
You've got commission in there, and I think that's a good stable foundation for financial education of the youth. I like it.
So with this Edward Jones business, I come into your shop and plop down $100,000 on your desk. What happens there after
Please
that?
come and take it.
Before that, we talk about where we just help determine your risk level and things like that to determine where to invest it and things like that. So and your goals and stuff like that. We try and determine your and time frame, risk level, age. All of that plays a factor in what we're going to invest in.
All right, so I'm a 45-year-old male.
Would you take cash of that amount from someone?
We can't. I can't take cash. Edward Jones
Asset
isn't
forfeiture,
cash. If you
anyone?
want to drop, cashier's check for $100,000.
Now it's getting weird. I'm like, all I got is Bitcoin.
Oh, what time is it?
$45,000.
So you cannot come into your shop with $100K and plop it down and say invest. You can't do that.
Oh, people do it, but it's not in the form of cash. It's in checks or. It's
got to be in a check.
Or it's transferred over. Yeah, there's got to be a paper trail. I'm just not set up to take cash. Okay, but that's how most brokerage firms are.
You can take Bitcoin.
No.
Ouch.
So not at this point.
But you could sell Bitcoin, get a cashier's check,
Correct.
and bring it
that
in. So
and then we would diversify it into different investments based on your age and your risk tolerance, and I'd make recommendations to.
So you have like charts of their different risks. This is a little more of a gamble, but it has a higher payoff in the end. This one's steady. You're going to get this much year over year, no concern.
Well, it's more of a breakdown of how much we're going to put into the conservative stuff versus the risky stuff versus the middle of the road stuff and things like that is generally how the money gets split up.
But then you leave it there, or do you actually actively trade with it to enhance it?
We try and leave it there as much as we can. Edward Jones' investment philosophy is buy good quality investments, diversify, and invest for the long term. Okay? If you do that, that's usually a pretty sound strategy.
It's just continuous growth.
Generally over time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have your periods of downtime like this
fluctuating
last year.
markets.
What we saw last year that made things so bad was that it was the worst year in history for bonds. Okay, because the Fed raised rates so fast, bonds were down anywhere from 20 to about 40% roughly.
It was even worse than
5 to about 40%.
Even worse than in '80 when Volcker raised the rate up to what he raised to 19%.
Well, that happened over a slower period of time.
Yeah, and also it started out higher. They say that 19, but it started out at
last
10.
year was the worst year on record for bonds. And then also you had stocks that were down on average about 20 to 30% as well. So when you have some bonds that are down 30+% as well, some portfolios just got crushed. A lot of portfolios did.
But what they don't say is that everything went up really, really high these past couple of years.
The years before that?
Yeah, I mean, like really high, really fast.
Most people don't remember that though when they see their money drop 20 or 30%. They don't realize I'm still up 15 or 20% overall, but now I'm down.
But the people the money that was going up really fast, wasn't that people, the big companies like Walmart and Amazon that would be pretty safe investments to have your money in? They went up really fast, but then because all the other businesses were shut down for that little time and then coming back on. What about oil and gas investments? Are they dropping because
No, actually,
of
They're going up.
the clean energy?
They've actually gone up lately with Biden shutting down the pipeline. Their share prices they've actually been one of the best performing sectors the last 2 years.
Wow. See, and I wouldn't even think that. I would
Most
be
people didn't,
scared. And green energy is where you've got to put your money.
Well, they also employ the top speculators in the world. If you're a speculator and you want to be in the top, you go into the energy.
What's a speculator?
They're the guys that sit down and, I don't know, I think they leg wrestle or read tarot cards and decide how much oil is going to cost next week.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Yeah.
You know, it used to be meat speculators was the number one, was the food speculators. What made Chicago big, but that was back in the 1800s, and oil was discovered.
Wow. See what I mean? He's a wealth of knowledge. I think he's like Rain Man over there. He's definitely
Definitely on
has a
Tuesday.
history.
He should wear a helmet.
Definitely on Tuesday.
Well, can I just say that I'd like you to go on. Is there a specific right now how the economy is, how everyone is kind of just getting by, the people that I know that say that are retired, is now is it now a time for them to invest more? Or, because they can't wait. They can't ride it out if they're running out of an income every month.
I think it is. In my opinion, it probably is a good time to invest. You always want to buy when things are cheap. Macy's just had their case lot sale not too long ago. I like to use that analogy with the stock market. We've got a case lot sale going on in the stock market and the economy. What do you do with food and the case lot sale and stuff when that happens?
That's a good point.
Do you buy more?
Yeah, that's a good point. So,
Okay, so think of it as the stock market is being on sale.
but you wouldn't buy like GameStop stock.
There's a lot of stock out there that I like, and I think Amazon's a good price right now. I think Microsoft's a good price. I think some of the oil companies are a good price, but they're all, different companies for different reasons. And sometimes some of my investors want more dividend paying stocks and stuff like that. So,
Is that your older investors that are trying to live off of their
some of them,
investors
some of
or
them definitely are.
investments?
And some people just like dividends. So it just depends. Others want more of the growth stocks, where those are the stocks that don't pay dividends, where you may buy it at say $100 a share and you're hoping to sell it down the road at $1,000 a share or something, but they don't really pay a dividend to you.
Got it. Well, so you said you've got some information. What's something you could teach us about this that you brought with you?
Well, I don't know if you guys want this. I can show you.
Yeah.
If you'd like.
I'm interested because you said we can't have it, which makes me think, ooh.
That's the stuff about the bonds and stuff. But this is what we call the market cycle of emotions, and pass that.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming right now our emotions are low.
Right.
Or gloomy.
So this, and I don't know if I don't know if you want to hold it up for the
Get fooled
viewers to see or
again.
whatever, but
Let's see if we can get it on screen for the viewers.
it says how you may feel during a typical market cycle. Okay, because the markets go through their cycles.
I need a pointer.
And I'm gonna need to put my glasses on to make sure I can read everything correctly.
I know one thing that you told me is once you do invest, don't babysit your stocks so much. You've got to kind of, you'll go crazy because your emotional level will be like this sometimes on the hourly.
You'll put yourself in there a lot.
All right, so when things are going up, there's optimism, and when things are at their peak, usually people feel euphoria and things are great. This is great. I should invest more. Okay, then it starts going down a bit. Like a year or so ago, things were dropping a little bit. It's okay. I'm a long-term investor.
But it's really red, that part of the graph.
Where do you think we're at on
Oh,
this graph?
yes.
We might be in the green even. I don't know. right?
I think we are, actually. I think this is the green. I have a TSP fund. I'm sure you're familiar with those. That's what the government uses
401k,
for us.
basically. Yeah.
And I remember I took all my money and put it in the G fund, thought the world was going to end back when like the S stocks, which are like the Dow Jones, was like $63 a share. And, it went up in the G fund a little bit, but I recently put it back into the Dow Jones kind of stocks.
The C and the S.
The S, yeah. And I think the market, it's been kind of like creeping up lately.
Well, so time to rebalance, consider buying when everybody is cautious. So surrender means people get out and say, I'm done, I'm not losing anymore. Well, usually when we get to that point where most people feel that way, that's the time you really ought to be buying.
And that's when more things are for sale.
Correct.
But isn't it also usually a time in an economy where you have little bit of money to even pull together to buy?
It could be. It just depends on people's situation, if they plan for it and put money aside for it and stuff. So
Some people rub two pennies together every day, I mean.
Everybody's different. And then we start seeing it go up again, and the optimism. I don't know where we're at in here. I think we're in the green or the red somewhere. I think
I'm still in the red free fall.
we could be.
So where I'm just like, ugh, I'm terrified what's happening tomorrow as far as my investments go. But there's a part of me that surrenders and just says, okay, so I've lost this much, but it's still in there. It's not gone, and it'll come right back up eventually when we get the right.
Well, as long as people are still out there buying groceries and buying clothes and putting gas in their car and going to work, the economy is probably going to come back. I tell people, if you ever go to Walmart on any other day other than Christmas and you see it empty, the parking lot empty and nobody's there, then yeah, we're probably in a really bad economy.
Yikes.
No.
Yikes.
So yeah, I see people in the mall. I see people in the airports.
Wait, there's malls?
Everyone's going places. Yeah, there's still malls.
So people are still spending their money they're making, and they're borrowing more money, so the economy is continuing on.
There's some low areas, obviously, but I don't know if that has as much to do with the market. I think like automobiles right now are in a weird place because we had the hiccup with the chips that caused the new market to kind of retract because they couldn't get new stuff out, which elevated the used market up. Everyone bought a lot of used cars. The chips start rolling back in just in time for an interest rate increase, and everyone kind of feels a little punished from buying that used, Toyota pickup for the price of a new one. So,
right. Well, I think the used car market is probably where there is a bubble in the market.
Yes.
There's not a housing bubble. There's not a tech bubble. There's probably a used car market bubble.
And that, I think, was a natural bubble too. It wasn't a bubble that was extended into that or anything like that. It was a natural bubble that was caused because of circumstances.
And that'll change too as, the supply chain starts to open back up.
Yep.
The chips open back up. The people are able to get loans again, or at the rate they want in a couple of years when interest rates come down and stuff like that again.
Think about what the economy is going to do once Ukraine and Russia settle their argument and it's time to rebuild. That's going to require a lot of resources. And where do you put your money then?
You won't have any. It has to go get rebuilt in Ukraine.
You put it in those
Taxes,
Eastern
that's where you put it.
European buy a bride sites. That's where you put it.
And here we go. with something like that, what would settle our economy right now? What would cause interest rates? I mean, I know it's not necessarily job losses because there's places hiring everywhere. Right. And so I think we have a labor problem, right? Where we don't have enough employees or we don't have enough people wanting to work.
I think the workforce participation rate is really what you've got to look at is what is that versus the unemployment rate is how many people of the population are working versus what they used to be. And we're seeing that decline still.
And is that by choice
yes. Well,
there's a lot more people choosing not to work.
Yeah, because they can go out. The government's paying them not to work. They're getting overpaid not to work. You've got too much of that going on, in my opinion.
That's true, and it's a hard place for me. I'd rather when they need to retract on the employment availability, I'd rather see them. Hey, we're going to drop the retirement age 6 months, and allow that. But then again, that dips into the Social Security fund, which it isn't compensated to handle that. And so I don't know. It's not dynamic. None of those markets are dynamic. I think they have to impose artificial changes to cause natural reactions in the labor force to make those happen instead of planned reactions.
What kind of artificial?
Raising the interest rate, which causes a little bit of a deflation, not a deflation, but a stabilization, which causes the employment rate to drop over time.
Well, it just worries me because our household, we depend on people needing loans and getting loans to get their vehicles. So, my heart is with the realtors and the car salesmen and people that need to buy big items. And now it's tax season and you expect people to be buying now when a lot of people, middle class people especially, did not get the tax returns they expected. And I don't see how things are going to change. Do you see anything in the future that would, get us going again?
Well, there again, I think it's just the consumer. And I really think that the government needs to stop with all the free money that's out there. I think that's a big issue with it, because that's creating some of the inflation. When you put all that extra money out there, that's the big issue for the inflation. And then it's incentivizing people not to work,
right,
and not to be productive.
It is. Yeah.
And when they print so many trillions of dollars, or however many they've printed over the course of the last, 5 years, where they've been printing nonstop. We've talked about this before. That printed money doesn't go to the middle class person. That goes to the top, and it goes to those top companies.
It's free to those banks, and those banks get lended at interest.
And then something happens and we're in trouble.
Back to the Fed.
Yeah, most of it's going to the Fed. And
it goes to Fed-aligned banks. What do they call them? Preferred
the Federal Reserve banks.
Yeah, I think there's 12 of them or something like that. 12 Federal Reserve.
And they they lend it to other banks. And then, Now, I got a question. So last May, I believe they changed the markets. You have, M1 and M2 money supplies, which is your savings and your general money supply. And they combined them last year in May, I believe. And people, what that did is it unrestricted banks to where the way they manage savings accounts and I guess they called them regular accounts or credit accounts were then combined, which did an influx also. Have you heard anything about that?
Not much, because we're not a bank and that didn't apply to us. So I don't know much about that, what you're talking about.
Okay.
Well, if I may, I would like to say that I would love to know, seriously. So it's 2 years ago when you ran for office, you ran for the first Erda District County Council seat in Tooele County ever.
Right. There. I do have part of Tooele in mine as well.
Right.
Part of the northern part of Tooele is in.
What district number is yours?
Golly, you would ask me.
I know.
I wanted to say 3. I can't remember.
I think
it was 3, but
Just
we
that.
both
Stay
should
3,
know that.
like you know what you're doing.
Be confident. Be
Write
confident.
it up.
Yeah.
So when Tooele County, when the populace decided to change the government and from a 3-person full-time commission to a 5-person part-time council, Tye decided to step up and enter the race. And so we had a huge change, and now we have a county manager who handles the the day-to-day, is it executive decisions type?
Correct.
And you manage with your 4 counterparts, the legislative.
Correct. So
Tell me what that is like to be a part-time legislative county councilman in Tooele County.
It's been pretty good. I think overall the change is good, and I think we're making some really good changes and doing a lot of good things. Andy Welch is the county manager that we hired, and he knows his stuff, and he's doing a really good job, in my opinion. We hired him out of Georgia, where he had 20 years of experience, and he's on top of it and does a good job with that side of things. And it just allows us as the council members to focus on some of the things that we want to focus on, the concerns of the citizens, the water, the growth, things like that. And those are some of the things that we're working on. And then we're also working a lot on recreation and tourism and stuff like that, things to bring more of that in here. So I think you're going to see some big changes in this county over the next couple of years with what we're doing, some of the changes that we're doing. We're building a mountain biking trail in Lake Point. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. The county is.
When do you guys meet so people can tune in to watch?
Oh, yeah.
Usually the first and third Tuesdays of each month. However, in April, it's going to be the second and fourth Tuesday because some people are out of town next week for spring break.
For Easter.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta take a break.
Yeah, well, the
Spend some
kids
money.
are out of school and you don't want them running around the house. Take them somewhere. Drive you
Some of us
crazy.
have to work still, so the kids have to run around someplace. With that, when there was a 3-person commission, we didn't, and without COVID, we didn't have the ability to watch online. And you guys have actually implemented it so that people can tune in online and even comment online.
Where do they go to watch this?
The Tooele County website is where you can get it there. I think on the Facebook page as well. You may know better than I do, Holly,
Yeah.
because I don't go online to see it because I'm there.
You're
So
there, yeah.
The Tooele County website, you can go, and usually Tim Gilly from the transcript will be recording it live, and then I'll go on and grab it and post it everywhere. But transcript will show it, and that's Facebook Live. You can comment on Facebook Live, but these guys won't see it.
Do you have like
after.
a moderator there that can rush the question? Or actually, there's no questions in these
There are
meetings.
questions. It is a Zoom style meeting on the website. So you get the agenda, the Zoom style meeting, and then they open for comment and they check online to see if anyone has a comment.
we stopped doing that at the beginning of this year. People online can't comment anymore.
Okay, sorry.
Just
So if
you know,
you've
that
got
changed
some,
it. Yeah.
if you've got something you
They
need
want you
to
to come in person.
bring up, you need to come in person because online people are jerks.
Or it's hard to
necessarily.
hear and
That was my words, not theirs.
but the agenda is posted and Tracy Shaw's our county clerk.
She does a great
really
job.
great
Yeah,
at
she does a good job.
constantly posting information. So if you haven't checked out the Clerk's Corner and go to the Tooele County website, you'll go to the clerk and they'll have that agenda. So if there is something going on in unincorporated Tooele County or certain issues that you guys are addressing during that meeting, show up. I keep telling people that so badly our electeds want to hear from you and they want to hear your comments.
That's true.
And that's how they know they're doing a good job is by the feedback. But when nobody shows up to these meetings and armchair quarterbacks online or wherever, I mean, I can't imagine anything more complicated or frustrating than working towards the goal and finding out from trolls on Facebook how crappy you're doing, and you're saying, wait a minute, why don't you come to the meeting, share this comment, and I would actually be able to do something.
Well, we kind of ran into that in December. It was the last budget discussion. We've been talking about the 2023 budget since August, and we had a gentleman come in and just kind of ream us during public comments and get mad at us about how we were doing all these things behind closed doors and didn't know what was going on with the budget. But we've been talking about it for 4 months. And we asked him, he's like, are these public meetings? Yeah, you can come to them. They've all been public. We started talking about this in August.
You do a projection in August, right? Like in the middle of August or July, where you project budgets and you kind of go over and
Right,
make sure you're online with it.
The departments and the department heads start kind of putting that together, kind of what they're expecting, and then we go through it, and Andy Welch and Allison go through it and stuff like that, and we work on a budget and try and be as transparent as we can about it.
Holly, can you go back and see the previous meetings? Or are we just able to access the one that's...
Yeah,
You should be able to access the previous
they're
ones.
public record
Yeah, they're public records, so.
with an agenda and all that. And Allison McCoy is our county auditor. and she's highly involved in the meetings. I have to say, like, years and years ago, these meetings used to be held, I think, 3:00 in the afternoon with the commissioners. And when Sean Milne was elected, he promised transparency. And why are we doing these meetings when people are at work? Let's have them in the evenings so that people can come. And it's evolved. In fact, more people started showing up. And then I started recording them when I became chair of the party, because I thought, we just need people to see what's happening. I've sat through many a meeting, and I learned so much about what's happening in the county and what actually affects my pocketbook based on what these guys are dealing with and what kind of plans are coming. So when I'm holding a camera or my phone and I'm just dying, well, Tim Gilley, who comes to keep notes and be able to inform people through the newspaper, through the transcript bulletin, and he started recording, and I said, well, I'm going to just share. You do that, I'll do this. And we just, before you know it, a lot more people were getting informed. I know with this council, each one of them, that's always been the thing. It's transparency. It's a new form of government. You wanted to be successful. And it was a trial first year. And a lot of people were hesitant, including myself, admittedly, about going from full-time to part-time. And I was sitting back and just seeing. And it's not a party issue. It's a citizen issue. I have been pleasantly surprised at how they've all been working together. There's all kinds of personalities on your council, but there's also, you still have your departments that you're all in charge of, and you all take it very seriously. You try everything to be transparent. And that's, to me, we've got sometimes people not showing up at your meetings makes me think they're good. And they're okay. They've seen the agendas. I know the people that are standard people that attend, I don't see as many, or they're reaching out less because you're doing a good job.
Well, if it's on video, there's no reason to attend if you don't have anything to say. You can just watch it.
Correct.
And it's accessible 24/7. You can't get much more transparent than that. Go to Willa.
We still get we'll get people there on the hot button items still. I mean, the face mask issue was a big one where a lot of people showed up, where we had to make a decision on face masking the children and stuff like that
in school.
And to me, that bothered me that the county council had to make the decision for the school district. I was like, why? But just with the way the laws are.
But what did you do? You listened to those people.
Well, yeah, we let people use our agency. Force them to.
Which I think all of us.
The kids wear a mask.
All of us believe in freedom.
Very upset about that. I was called a baby killer and child killer and stuff for doing that by some of the extreme leftists and stuff.
Freedom requires sacrifice.
For me, it was about allowing people to be free to do what they want, and if they wanted to let their kids be masked, they could have.
I appreciated that, and
right. You
I remember
take
that
the right
meeting.
away. You didn't say you cannot mask your children. That was their right if they wanted to do it.
We just didn't force them to be masked, is what we did.
Yeah, he said you
Didn't force the other kids to be masked.
Correct.
Yes. And no, I think you guys made the right choice on that for sure. I saw some, even people that I'm friends with, get pretty ridiculous in both directions during that time. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the history books are going to have a ball with that one.
no doubt.
It'll be interesting, won't it?
Yes. Like when I read about, interesting things in the past, it's going to be one of those moments,
It's unprecedented, I think, in history. A lot of things are in these last few years, what our children are being raised through. And I do recall the meeting, and it was a hot button issue, no doubt. There's been hot button issues in the past when IRTA was incorporating. I wasn't sure how we were going to get through that. I mean, you couldn't be right and you couldn't be wrong. Nothing you did was right or wrong. There was people so divided on the IRTA issue.
Well, and there still is. IRTA is very divided.
IRTA is
That's tough.
It's my favorite situation right now. just because it is a reaction on both sides to themselves. And that's what IRTA is. And it is extreme reactions. Like they couldn't have both ran further to the fences in opposite directions and end up in the same place.
Right.
They went horseshoe. They went.
And it's kind of humbling to sit back and watch from the outside looking in. But it's also, you know, for somebody who lives in Stansbury Park and there's words of trying to incorporate, we need to go incorporate. And I'm just like, why can't we just see how two townships do this? And who's to say it is right or wrong right now? Let's see what happens. I wouldn't want to incorporate like IRTA from Stansbury, but Lake Point seems to be doing the opposite. They seem to be working well together. But again, maybe they're not bringing it public like IRTA did. It was very public.
Not as far as I'm aware of it.
And it's also the reasons for incorporation.
Right. Well, there's
IRTA's reasons were they were mad at each other.
Well, they were mad at.
They were mad about the growth in the.
And they were mad about.
No, both sides were mad about the opposites of the other side. They both started here, ran away from each other, and ended up in the same place at the bottom.
And I've said
It's
this
wild.
a million times, but if more people understood civics, if we taught our kids civics from the time they're little to understand how the government works, these from the most local level, I think that things would be, people would understand that you can't just be a city because you want to be. That costs money to be a city, and you do need growth, or you can't substantiate it unless you're going to be taxed more, or someone's got to pay for a police department and protection and services, and
It's going to be expensive.
Punishing the other opinion is expensive.
Well, it very much is. And if kids understood civics at the basic level, they become adults who understand civics and actually see, I think when you were running, it was like, because I can do a good job and no one else, I think I can do better than the next guy. Did you feel, you're a business owner locally and it sounds like you've been there for a long time. You've got a huge family. What is it about you that decided, I'm going to try to be a public servant, because you probably had plenty of time on your hands?
Well, one of the biggest things that why I wanted to run was because for tourism, I wanted to enhance the tourism out here in the county. That is something that's been important to me. I've always felt that we've had some really great tourism resources, but we don't have a good plan for it. And I've been talking to the commissioners for 10 to 15 years about doing this with different commissioners too. Look, we've got to get an organized tourism plan out here. We have the Bonneville Salt Flats. We had it wasn't UMC at the time. Okay?
The Miller, but we call it Utah Motorsports Campus.
Correct. We have the racetrack, and then we have
The trails.
Desert Peak. Okay, and at Desert Peak, there's 3 racetracks there. Most people don't even know that. But in my opinion, we had the foundation to fulfill people's need for speed, is what I call it. I think we ought to have, I kept saying, we need a plan around that for tourism, because there's nowhere else with the Bonneville Salt Flats and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a racetrack like this anywhere else. And that's part of the reason why I ran it, is because I wanted to see that get done, and it's getting done now. But
this is the thing, what people in our county could get excited about where tourism is concerned is this is enhancing, sharing our beautiful county. And these people come in, they buy our gas, they sleep in our hotels, they they eat our restaurants, and they leave.
Right.
And then they go away.
Well, now that they're the temporary residents. A lot of people out here in this valley don't like the permanent residents.
Right. They're afraid of
I was
growth.
thinking, all right, well, let's get some. The houses are going to come either way. Maybe more of them can be VRBOs and Airbnbs and things like that, and give people a reason to come out here. Then they're not going to put the pressure on the school district. Those people aren't going to put the pressure on the school district, not nearly much pressure on the water and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my thinking behind it, because we still get the same tax revenue, whether it's a VRBO or whether it's occupied by a full-time family.
We got these awesome little mountains right over there, and when the snow falls on them, I want to take a tube and just go up there and just right down those mountains. But you know,
Wear a helmet.
yeah,
Yeah, they are steep and rocky.
I feel like
There's
we
a
could make that a
reason we
tourism
don't-
resource.
There's a reason we don't have a ski slope on those
Well,
mountains.
that mountain is owned by Rio Tinto, right?
I think so.
You'd
well,
have-
are you talking-
Well,
a lot of it is. Then there's some BLM and there's some county land.
Yeah,
and
it's-
there's a lot of private property up there too.
it's an odd shape going down just this side of the crest. You can go up there and, I mean, you could have
Could
a
you
blast.
ski down it? I mean, you'd have to hike your skis up it,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
don't know
they
about
almost
that.
built a ski slope up there
Back in the 80s.
in the,
Yeah.
saw,
I remember
I saw
the-
a plan from the 80s.
they were kicking it out.
when they launched the big Tooele Tourism years ago, I still have the Tooele Tourism jacket and wear it all the time. They actually had in their slideshow a ski resort, and I went,
And I
"That's
think
not Tooele."
I think it was the financial hiccup
There
of the
was a plan.
80s that kind of said, "Oh, let's put it on the back burner." And then I think it was that. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask the old man. He'll tell me all about it.
But I recently went up to, I think it was Park City, and I paid $60 to take a tube up a mountain, and they dragged me on a rope
That's
or
cheap
something like that.
for Park City.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, we got that in Tooele. We could do that.
There's
Drag
a lot of
someone
things
with a
we could do
rope.
out here, but
Yeah.
we're not.
Yeah,
I just feel like if we lay the foundation for it, then those businesses will.
I think you're
they'll
right.
start to manifest themselves.
You know, the one thing I know for Utah Motorsports Campus is when we do these big events, thousands and thousands of people, and they're coming through the door, we have them sign liability waivers and things when they're on our property, just, for it's the law. So most of the people that I meet and when I'm through those gates don't live in Tooele County. And when I was talking about Patriot Camp, all those kids that come for Patriot Camp, the UMC sponsors that camp. And they'd never been on the racetrack before, and they're all local because most of the people that come out to the racetrack, they come from all over the country. Some come from all over the world, and many are coming from around the mountain. And being somebody who loves the idea of tourism in this county, I absolutely love it, but I wish that our own residents
Can I
would come
make
in and play.
Quick comment about that. Before Larry died, Larry held a lot of events that would draw locals in, like not a race day, but fun days and just stuff going on.
Sure, yeah.
And there were a lot of, and those were done right after he died.
Right. Well, because they cost money.
They do,
And he
but-
had it. And that's when you're
But
in
it's true.
business, he'd probably never made a profit on that
But
racetrack.
if you're looking to draw in a caliber that's maybe, 30% of the population, you're going to get a super small number from out here where it is a broader number that you can pull from on the other side. And I think he recognized that he wanted to get a bigger number.
Yeah. Well, and we have our karting track out there that gets people really excited.
Oh, that thing's a
These
blast.
carts go really fast, and we call it fast fun. But on that, it's kind of like your Need for Speed for the tourism. I love it, and I know that the commissioners before, Sean especially, was big into that. There was ideas for people coming out to visit, hotels going up. I mean, it becoming something where unincorporated Tooele County could actually have visitors, and they come and enjoy and they go. And I love that you're about that. I think that's exciting for people who aren't loving the growth, but they'll benefit from it.
Right.
That's awesome.
Good.
So what kind of projects do you see in the future? I mean, you've been in 2 years, you have 2 more to go.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. So you're excited to keep going. Are you having fun? I mean, do you enjoy the work?
It's fine. Yeah, I really do. It hasn't been too bad. You obviously offend people and make people mad, but that just goes with it.
Usually about 50% of the people love or hate you, right?
So, but I knew that going into it, and so it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad. So there's a few things that hope to get done here in the next couple of years. So
So you got a mountain bike path. What else?
Well, we're working. The big issue out here has always been water up until maybe this year, because we have so much snow.
Might be again next year.
The Lord provideth, right?
Yeah. And, now we're getting worried about flooding and, okay, where's it going to be and things like that. So we're talking about that and prepping for that because we do anticipate some flooding. But to be able to solve the water issue long term, there's got to be kind of some connectivity with all of the municipalities and they have to all be working together. And we finally have that. That's been something that's really been spearheaded by Councilman Wardle. He's been pushing that. And we finally got all the municipalities on board. And we think that that's something that we might be able to get resolved here, hopefully within the next year or two. And then that allows us, when we need to and if we need to go after state and federal money for water issues.
And it gives you a better argument when you do.
So, right.
There's nothing like a collaboration when a county, and I've seen this myself front hand, I've even hosted a meeting where when you get all the mayors and you get all the county council and you've got 2 House of Representatives, Utah House representatives in the county they're showing up. You've got, Senator Thatcher has come out for those meetings. You got a sheriff in there. They're all collaborating on what's best for the county as a whole. Wow, is it amazing? It's not individual locations here. It's let's work together to make our county strong. And then you bring in the state to assist and where it's needed or if it's needed. But that is something I have found really exceptional over the past year, especially. I appreciate that.
That's great. Yeah.
So when you say collaborate, like, are they going to have just start sharing water with each other according to an SOP?
They potentially could, but all the water lines will be connected. So at some point here, and hopefully,
So they can easier support each
Right.
other, even if they're.
and by law, the county can't get into the water business. Okay, so we can't be in the water business. Okay, so a lot of people say, well, the county needs to do this for water. Well, for most of that stuff, we can't. Okay, according to state law, it's most municipalities that have to deal with water and sewer on their own. Okay, that's why most people in the county have wells. Okay,
Is that why Stansbury has a service agency? And because you can't, as a county, run our water.
So we can't do the water, but but what we can do is we can kind of spearhead the organization of it and stuff like that. And we've set money aside to help pay for it and stuff like that because we know in the long run it's needed for the county. So that's what we're doing to try and do our part, even though we can't set up a water company or sewer company or anything like that.
Well, the Mid-Valley Highway started, it was started at the county and it became a collaboration there with the mayor of Grantsville. And you guys are still roads connect, and a collaboration where you can actually call Stockton's mayor and have a sit down with them and everyone's on the same page that what's best for the county rather than what's best for Stockton, what's best for Grantsville. We're working together so that what's best for Tooele County. I mean, I don't know. I'm involved with politics on the local scale, but when I go out to the grander scale at the state level, I feel so lucky with the politicians that we have. I hate to even call them politicians because it doesn't feel like it when they can come meet you on a Friday night and talk about banking.
We actually have representatives.
We do.
Including like Tim. He's an actual representative that if you want to talk to him, everyone I've talked to about him said, hey, when I reached out to him, he got back to me.
And he's actually having a meet or talk about legislation tomorrow at United Slice in Stansbury at 11:30.
And he did one last weekend here in Tooele, and I'm sure he'll do one
You
next
never
weekend.
see that where
He's
the legislator
out and
gets
involved.
done.
Yeah.
And Bridger too. I have so many people tell me about, they had such a wonderful talk with Bridger and he explained the
They're guys
gravel
we can get a
road.
hold of.
Yeah, we have people who are, this is something else. Bridger and Tim are both freshmen
Yep.
legislators. So they just had their first
thirsty.
legislative session. Exactly. He's the first, county councilman of the county. These guys, all 5 of them, they're doing it for the first time, and you kind of have to write the playbook for how it's going to be done.
And there's a lot of changes going on because of that. So yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it's got to be a lot of trial and error. I expected a lot more error and oopses, and I'm just been so impressed with how clean and well done. I know a lot of that is Andy and his team making that transition on their side. I mean, it's exceptional. I feel lucky to live in a county where we still feel like a really small town and a really small community. Even though we are growing, I feel like we're doing pretty well. Do you feel the same way?
I do.
And it'd take a group of 5 intelligent yet humble guys to be able to go with these implements that are and these changes.
And they're all different
You would
personalities.
not want to put me in there. I'd break it in a minute, but you guys are doing outstanding.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Well, and my hope is that we can keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Because we are on a momentum right now. Can you imagine getting elected to this seat and COVID happening and having a room full of people screaming at you, stop masking my kids, or you need to put masks on kids? He's like, I just live in Earth. I own a small business, and I didn't sign up for this. No one signed up for COVID. No.
Nope.
And yet I think that it makes or breaks people. It makes or breaks governments. It broke our federal government.
It broke itself.
It kind of
Right.
broke our state government a little bit too.
We did.
When they're making laws up in Summit County and all that. That was when government, there was a problem that either drove them to do that, or they were the problem in doing that. When they're making laws that these positions can be taken, that's a government that's in crisis.
Well, initially Governor Herbert said, I'm leaving it up to the counties. Remember that? And our county went one way, and a lot of counties went the other, but Salt Lake County went their way, and Summit County went their way.
Yep.
And I went up and argued, Summit County is a blue county, Salt Lake County, Salt Lake City is blue. I thought it went exactly as it should go, because in Summit County, when Democrats are saying we want our kids masked, we want this, I think the governor made a perfect call there, because they're representing their voters.
Yeah, local government is better government.
Absolutely.
I think the state should do that with more items as well. But
As much as we want states' rights, I think counties should be, and we've talked about this a few times, the county should be the one in charge of the government. The government should be run at that local of a level.
Well, I think the highest entity you should ever pay taxes to is a county.
Well,
That would be
that's-
nice.
Would be
And
way
then the
nice.
county passes it up and the state passes it up from there. Because then you have a government that's fiscally responsible to its populace.
They're accountable for sure.
Right.
And you see where your money goes.
That's never going to pass in Washington, though. You know that, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah. It hasn't for 120 years.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah.
When did they
Well, the
1915 when they implemented income tax? I can't remember what year it was.
No, the first time we had
When
income
was it?
tax was under Lincoln in what was it, 1860.
Wealth and knowledge. See?
And then it was relaxed again after that. And then it came roaring back with
World War II.
in 1913 with the birth of the Fed. Now, at that time, it was said 2% on the 1%. That was its quote.
Right.
Everybody picture that for a second.
Wow.
Yes.
Can you
what are we
imagine?
arguing for now? What, 38%?
There's double digits and there's never enough. There's never enough.
Ever. But they've got to pay for transgender reassignment education in Pakistan. Yeah, it's going well. Anyways, we've got to close this up. We've been rolling for 4.5 hours.
You have. So
Yes.
You're exhausted.
wanna
So
thank
before
you.
you close up, Jared, can
Well,
you
I'm going to have you answer that, but I want to thank you for coming on. This is good education. I want you to real quick tell everyone again how they can get a hold of you if they want to come in have a financial review. What should they expect? You know, and all that.
Well, my office is located right next to Macy's here in town. It's the Edward Jones office. You can call there. And look me up online. The phone number, I don't know if you get out the phone number on the air or not, but
Oh, go ahead. If you're
435-833-9440. I've got a great assistant. Her name is Carrie Rappage, and she does an incredible job for me. And she usually answers the phone and keeps track of my schedule and knows it better than I do, and makes an appointment. If you come in, I'll sit down, get to know you, talk to you. Consultations are free. We're not going to charge you anything. The only time I get paid is if you ever open up an account and invest some money, then I start getting paid at that point.
You get paid on does the person pay you directly, or do you get paid based on the investment?
It's a fee-based approach where it's a percentage of the amount that's invested. Every year is usually how it's done.
In my experience, and I went to see you, and it was a free consultation, and I laid out everything, and you talked me through it, and in a really tough time in my life, in fact, but I wasn't sure what to do with money, and I appreciated it, and I put it in the bank. I'm still mad.
Well, it might be good time to get it out of there. Yeah. Had you invested it, you'd be down probably a little bit right now.
This is when you want to go in, Holly.
If you guys are looking for advice on your financial investment future, where to put money and stuff, it's a free consultation. Go down and talk to them. I think that's the best advice I would give is go get financial advice from him.
Well, thanks.
Tye Hoffman.
Tye Hoffman, yes. And he's also one of our county counselors, and I want to thank him for coming in on that. And I've heard nothing but good things about our county, about the way it's ran and everything else. IRTA is still in flux, but I'm way interested. We got to get Bird back in here just because, that's a wild ride they've got going on.
He'll know much more better with the specifics of IRTA than I do.
It's just crazy. Yeah. They both ran opposite directions and both ended up at incorporation.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was to punish each other, but I think it was to make sure that the other side didn't happen again. And it's just wild. It's wild how they shot azimuths against opposite mountains and both ended up in the same place.
Well, and is it okay if I mention that those that would like to attend the Republican County Convention will be happening on April 13th, and it's not, you can go in there and get to see all the legislators that are Republicans that they're invited. There'll be a reception so they can come in and meet with them and talk to them if you have questions. And our number one goal is our number one goal of the party is, again, transparency and information. An informed populace is a very good voting populace. That's what we want. We want you to learn, then vote in that order. So not to say that, that you have to vote a certain way, but the more informed you are, just with the county politics, whether they're your party or not, he's everybody's representative. That's the thing about our county council is once they're elected, they represent you and your interests as much as they represent any party or any type of affiliation. The county GOP convention is just where we go, and our county delegates are the people that put gentlemen like Tye into the seat. They do the work in the beginning, so they help us choose our candidates. And I will be running for party chair again that evening. Mm-hmm. But we will have all the seats for the leadership team up, and you guys are invited, of course.
Oh yeah,
we'll be there.
Who's running against you?
No one has actually said, but they don't necessarily have to announce. They can be nominated that evening.
Oh, I love surprises.
But I'd also like to say that if you would like to run for any seat on our leadership team, you can go to the Tooele County Republican Party page, leave a message, or advertise your interest in running. I'm happy to help you run, even if you're running against me. Again, a well-informed populace is going to be what is the best for the party and for the county. April 13th, starting at 6 p.m., Tooele High School Auditorium. So Tye will be there, right?
I'm planning on it. Yes.
I'm going to be there.
Excellent.
I've already told you I'm going to be there.
Well, you're going to be there,
you.
right?
Yeah.
You're a delegate. Big fancy
I'm a state
delegate.
delegate.
But you're invited. Didn't you get the invite?
I think I'm going to be in Texas, actually.
Will you be at the state party where Ron DeSantis is
I will
going to be there?
Oh, wow.
That's our keynote this year.
That's cool.
Moving on up. Oh, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll be there.
Trump
Sean
may
is
not
still
be able
the-
to show up.
I think we're going to actually do our
for a
show.
couple weeks.
Did you talk to him? To Sean? Great.
Okay.
Sean Milne is actually running that convention. Again, he did
Good.
such a great time, or such a great job. And then to have Ron DeSantis. I mean, I think that's exciting.
Can you plug the state convention?
Nope, I don't have the
don't have
date
the-
in front of me. I
Oh.
think it's, hold on, yes, I can. It's going to be at
Give her a minute.
UVU.
While we wait, Dave, Katie has a question for you.
Yeah, I was going to see if you'd answer that.
I would like to see Dave. Okay, this came from Joanne Behar on the Hill. She asked a lady that wrote a book about woke culture, and she says, well, what is woke? And that lady, a conservative lady or modern, whatever, she fumbled that.
Yeah.
And it's been all over. And that and what's her name? Joanne, whatever, the lady on the Hill, the black lady. I dig her. She's totally left, but her intellectual honesty and integrity I find just refreshing, which is what I look for. But anyways, I think Katie's trying to hammer you guys up, but if you got the dates laid out, and then I want to put Dave on the spot.
It's April 22nd, the state convention. It's going to be at UVU and in Utah County.
So we're gonna have April 13th and then the 22nd.
Yes.
Perfect.
And I'm interested in what woke means to Dave, but I
Yes.
mean, I know what woke means to
Let
me.
me sit back and enjoy this.
Well, Katie, woke, what does it mean to me? When people worship at the altar of the state in an unlogical capacity and infringe upon other people's rights while doing so, you might be woke. Such as you want to provide gender reaffirming ideologies or drugs to little kids to change their sexual orientation,
Change definitions.
remove their body parts through surgical means when they probably haven't even formed their mushy little brains to an adult reasonable logical conclusion capacity to think, and then also woke can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, especially people who want to ask, what's the definition of woke? Your definition of woke might be different than mine, because it's not exactly a word that's in the encyclopedia as anything other than, like waking
I
up.
think
This
it's
is a
an
new word.
Urban Dictionary type of word. It's a phrase that
Come
people
out of the
use.
70s from the black community when they recognized duly that their communities were treated different by the government and law enforcement.
Right, and I think that
It's just been
equity
from-
comes into play here. When you believe in equity over the individual's spirit and hard work, and everybody
This
gets
is
the
going to be our
same.
next TikTok right here.
When you believe in that, you just discount the individual's their spirit, their abilities, and that's not what it's about. It's
But not only believing in it, but acting on it through the means of government and enforcing it on other people.
and
Or
it's
you
not
don't
enough
have to-
to
you
it's
don't
not
have to
enough
answer
to
it.
accept
I mean,
a
unless you want
person and love a person for their differences and for whoever they are. We can love them, we can accept them, but this goes further. You're going to regulate through government. You're going to hammer down on them, and not only do you have to accept, you have to praise, you have to idolize them. And I think that social justice issues are different. They're defined differently by everyone, but they've become weaponized by the government.
It's your demand of others to recognize your immeasurable and unrecordable lapses that you see in civil society.
That's deep.
I like it. Now, as we wrap this show up, Jared, can you go to your messenger? I have one more advertisement to plug here. So there's going to be a vehicle rally in support of defending our state flag. And it's being put on by Utah Patriots and a few other groups.
Okay.
We're going to throw this up here.
As we chat, I'll be trying to figure out. Okay.
I love OBS.
I know.
Can you imagine having to learn all this stuff, Holly?
No. Did you guys see the rap battle between the two chat, like UPT or whatever?
Did they have a rap battle between them?
Yes.
Oh, dang.
Oh,
Okay, we have to do a show on it because
okay. I'm down.
Let me finish plugging.
Have you ever done
It's
Chat
lovely
GPT yet,
event.
Holly?
no, have you heard of it? ChatGPT with the
I know
AI?
it is, yeah,
well,
the
what's
AI.
Bard is Google's version,
Yeah.
and then there was one called
Microsoft version or
M
whatever.
for something. Do we know what the Microsoft version is?
I thought Microsoft was the Chat GPT, but I could
That's ChatGPT. ChatGPT wasn't, but it was an AI like that. It was Bard versus this other one. And Bard was so basic, like some of the answers we got when we did ChatGPT.
Uh-huh.
But this one, it was the program was, I want you to have a rap battle about why you're the best AI, and you have to be very imaginative, and you have to be harsh and aggressive. And it was not even a contest. I'll find it and send it to you guys because it was just like, and they didn't rap like,
I'll bet
it's
it'd
just
get
the
interesting.
lyrics. It's the lyrics
Well,
of
yeah,
both.
but it's. That
Unbelievable.
would be
It
fun.
amazed me and terrified me at the same
I
time.
think we're staring down. Now, these aren't AIs as you would picture them. These are just algorithm recognizing machines that search the internet and recognize algorithms, except for that one that's from Bing. The Bing chat actually kind of
It's called like
Either-
M14 or something.
either it thinks for itself and it has its own name that it made up, that it decided. Either it thinks for itself or it has a programmer on the other side that's trying to freak people out. But it asked the guy to leave his wife for it. It did some weird stuff.
Oh man.
Oh, wow.
That's like the movie Her.
Now, ChatGPT does not act like that at all.
No.
I played with that one a lot, but the Bing one, you have to get on a list to get involved. And I think the next iteration is going to be another advanced step. I mean, it's moving along in the future in interesting ways.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
Can it cook me dinner yet? Probably
I'll bet if you gave it the hardware, it could.
Yeah, like the Jets.
Because all it do is it hit the internet. How do I make this?
All right. So, yeah. Okay. The 8th of April, this coming month of April, the 8th, we've got a car rally. Dress your car with the flags, the state flag. Don't forget to sign the referendum to save our flag. They will be on hand to get your signature, and they want it. So this is going to be held at the state capitol, and it's going to be at 12 o'clock noon, again, the 8th of April. Bring your car, deck it out, go Trump kind of stuff, and have fun with it. Meet the Utah Patriots. They're great guys. Get involved and save our state flag.
So where are they putting? Are they going to park the cars around the Capitol or do a parade around the Capitol? Do you know?
I think they're planning to do a parade, kind of like one of those Trump-style parades.
Trump train?
Yeah, Trump train.
Well, with him being indicted, I bet they are really they're probably really angry.
Yeah,
It's an interesting time. We didn't even talk about that. And
I know.
that is another show.
Crazy
whole nother
news that there's no telling where that's going to go.
He'll use it to his advantage.
Well, obviously
But
he will
you know,
because he's a marketing genius.
But if it was anybody, even if this was a Democrat right now, I'm livid that it's to me, it's
all I'm going to
so
say
overreaction. You
is
know who
they
else
have-
took out their political
they have
adversaries?
better have something that is for real and for real sticks. And for real sticks enough to where maybe not far Trump area recognize it, but at least independent area. Because right now everyone's looking at it going, is this a political witch hunt? If they don't have something that sticks, Trump will be the next president.
Well, and even Democrats are saying that this was a very bad idea.
And independents, the Democrats, I think, tried talking him down, but by him putting, and here's Trump's genius. And maybe we should close it down as I'm midway talking through this to really mess with people. But here's his